Hello and welcome to the final chapter, the final lecture, which is basically a conclusion of this training course, where we would be briefly talking about how to get hired as a system administrator and my final thought on the course. Now, you've been through thick and thin, and you have been through the program from the beginning, and you have made it this far. And I want to thank you for your efforts, and I believe you've learned a thing or two that can help you on your career. Now, to get hired as a system administrator, it's just like any ordinary job role that you can apply to. But the thing is, whenever you're applying for any job, you need to make sure that you're applying for the job and you're telling the recruiter that you have what they're looking for. So this is basically a best practice tip when you're going about applying for jobs related to what you've just studied. So IT system administrator on default is not really a beginner role. It's more like an intermediate role and sometimes advanced. So you should be someone that has a good grasp of understanding of the basic help desk IT support role. And then, for instance, you're trying to build upon that to become a system administrator. So if you want to get hired as a system administrator, obviously you would go through the normal process, going through the job search. I am on Indeed at the moment, and I have this job, for instance, that says Associate Service Desk Administrator. You'd realize some of the tasks that you'd be asked to resolve is to build and install, configure, analyze, and troubleshoot Windows operating systems. You need experience with Office 365. You need to have a working knowledge of Intune device management. You need to know how to troubleshoot and deploy fixes. You need to know how to use remote tools. You need to know how to configure, installs, connect computers and network hardware, stuff like that. And the qualification shows that you need some minimum of working experience. So ideally, you need to have some experience in the IT industry. Now, most of the job roles would specify things that are within this region. So if you want to get hired, what I would suggest is you need to have a CV that's made tailored to some of these things that they're asking. For instance, if I go back here to this first role, it says IT support technician, but if you look at the role, it's basically things to do with a whole lot of technical stuff. And if you look at the work experience, you need 2 years proven experience as a system administrator, and you need to have some qualifications. You need to have some familiarity with Office, Microsoft 365 administration, Hyper-V, Windows Server environment, including MS Exchange, and the whole Office 365 package. Now, these things are things that are involved in the course. Some of it and some of it not. So if you know you don't have some of these skills and you're looking towards making sure you know how to demonstrate these skills, that is when some of these job training courses come into play. Now, Udemy offers a whole lot of courses on that. For instance, if you go to Udemy and you search for myself, Collins Gilisu, you'd realize I have a couple of courses that give information on some of these things that we just seen in these descriptions. So, for instance, if you're new to the whole industry and you want to start from the level up, I'd recommend starting with the IT support entry level job training course. You can see that so far it's had about 14 reviews, and the reviews are very high. So the course is very as practical as possible and is at the intermediate level, which gives you information on most of the things that they are exploring in some of these roles. For instance, if you go to the preview of this course, you'd find information on things to do with, I'm just going to come out of this, things to do with computer hardware, software, network, Active Directory, Office 365, and then how to get hired at entry level. And if you want more information on some of the things that are talked about when it comes to qualification, like Office 365 suite, including Office 365 apps, which most organizations use, this same course can give you information on some of those experiences. For instance, we have Office 365 administration here, part 1 and 2, and things to do with Exchange that, they mentioned in some of those criteria. Now, this other course that we have here that talks about IT support troubleshooting, specifically to do with Office 365 training course, would give you more information on things to do with Office 365 and Exchange online. So you'd see that most of the courses that I have put out so far have been tailored to help you fill in the gaps that you need to fulfill some of these skills. You can apply for the jobs, but if you apply for the jobs and you don't have the necessary skills to demonstrate to the recruiter that you can do it, you wouldn't be able to. So I'd urge you to take some of these courses on and make sure that you understand, you practice along, and you can physically demonstrate to the recruiter in simple English how to demonstrate, how to resolve some of the technical issues, how to show that you know things to do with the necessary criteria that they're looking for. For instance, you need to know how to administer a server. You need to know that you need to let the user know how you administer Active Directory, and a whole lot more of other things. Now, final thoughts on the course that you just studied is basically we have exhausted some of the core components that you need to be familiar with hands-on when it comes to systems administrator role. It doesn't mean that the list is non-exhaustive. There are certain things that we didn't cover within the scope, but it's worthy of keeping an information out, keeping your initiative to be studying along, finding information on some of those things. We haven't covered things to do with virtualization, for instance, using Hyper-V. We haven't studied anything to do with backups, because as a system administrator, you need to know how to backen up your servers and your services so that whenever things go bang, you can always roll back. We haven't covered things like that. So the course is more like a system administrator role tailored course, but only the core components, more like within that level, but entry level. And then hopefully you can build on that and explore other opportunities within that role. I wish you the best, and I'd urge you to give the appropriate reviews that you see fit and give all the recommendations that you think can be done to make this course more effective and more practical and more better for you, the students. I'll see you in the next upcoming courses, as this would conclude my chapter to do with IT support, as I am moving away from this domain and I'm now focusing on specialized areas to do with Microsoft 365 Power Platform. I am on the road to become a Power Platform developer, and hopefully when I gain some grassroots and some internal understanding and confidence in some of those roles, I will start putting out job training courses in those domains as well. For instance, Microsoft Customer Insights, Dynamics 365 apps, and Power Platform apps. I'll see you when I see you. Thanks ever so much. Enjoy.